take command of multi-headed Greek mythology Hydras. Their heads get cut off and they keep coming back. You keep summoning them. You destroy all the demons in your path. Well, this build just might be for you. This is the Wizard Typhon Hydra build for 2.6.10 in Season 22. As always, we're doing our testing with less than 10k main stat, 800 Paragon, and less than 100 gem levels. I tested at this low level, and then I tested at a higher level when I add on my Paragon and things like that, just to kind of get a good feel for the build. And if you might have seen this on my tier list, all right, this is solid in the A tier right now. If you never played Hydra, I think you'll really enjoy it. This build is kind of slept on also. It hits really, really hard. Now you do have some setup, it's not too much, but you have to set up your Hydras as you can see. You have to set up the Blizzard spell, and you have to cast a generator. So I think they've been wanting to move away from these channeling builds, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the video of how they got away from that. But this is opposite of a channeling build. This is like you're casting nonstop, you're thinking about different buffs, and you're worried about your positioning. So they definitely went away from the channeling type builds, and this is more of an active playstyle. And at first, I did not like it, to be perfectly honest. I thought they ruined Hydra, this and that. And Hydra was never that amazing to begin with, like in terms of mechanics and the gameplay and everything. But I definitely learned to like the build. It took some time, right? And I started to kind of see the vision. Maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but it's a little bit more interesting. And I think they succeeded. Now, I would have designed it differently. Even saying that, even now, I would design the set differently. But I do enjoy this build. This build slaps. I mean, look at the progression, right? On a bad map, not open map, no like conduit pylon, nothing like that, right? Wizard has tons of shields. It's moderately tanky. You're like mid to long range with my version of the build anyway. And you just kind of sit back and you have all these like spell effects, and you can see like there's, raining hellfire, and there's, Hydras, right? It's a spell, even though they kind of look like pets. And you have like your bubble and your generator. It really does feel like thematically like a wizard build, you're actually casting stuff, and it's kind of cool, You could even play like a more tankier version with like barrier blade, spectral blade, and get up close and personal. But you can see I play like this mid to long range version, and it works out for me greatly. So that's pretty cool. And you don't need full ancients in the build since it's a Typhon set. Pretty solid overall. Really good single target if you hate the Rift Guardians being too annoying. They don't really fall off until late game, like after GR 140. Then that's when the Hydra start to really slow down in terms of progression. I'm going to kill a little bit of the Rift Guardian here just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is with not Stricken and just with Zays. And I just flashed my character sheet so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And it just gets chunk. It's pretty awesome. All right, Blood. So what's new in the build? What's so different about Hydra than the previous season when it was already in the game? The Typhon's Veil, 6-piece bonus increase from 1300 to 2000 damage. Now, we shouted this out last season saying it should be at 2k. So damn it. That's awesome that they made it to 2k because the build definitely needed it. And it really solidifies its place in that mid to high A tier. I almost put it in the A+ tier as it has tons of potential. They also gave us an offhand since they took away the Echoing Fury. If you don't know, Echoing Fury is only a twister item now. So that sucks, but it does move away from channeling builds like we talked about. Enemies killed by cold damage have a 25% chance to release a Frost Nova. This is basically irrelevant. Your Hydra, but it does add more CC. But your Hydras already give you like CC, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, your Hydra deals 150% increased damage to enemies in a blizzard. So that's why I'm casting Blizzard in the build. You might be like, yo, Blood, what's up with Blizzard? It's because they changed the way the item worked. Even Fragment of Destiny changed. Your signature spells attack 50% faster and deal triple damage. You gain a spectral buff whenever you land an attack with a signature spell. So that's why I have to use my generator, which it also pairs well with, I'll get into the rotation in a little bit. And Hydra's deal increased damage for each spectral stack up to 10 stacks. So this whole build is designed based off the new items. Also, what's new, it's the Hydra gift for the season. So a lot of people that are going to play Wizard are going to start off with Hydra, and we get a 4th slot in the cube. So we're able to fit in some unique combos, which again, we'll get into the rotation and everything later. Really quick, if you could throw me a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. That's pretty much all I ask, as it really helps get the video out to more people. There will be timestamps and chapters in the description so you can hop around and all that stuff. In terms of build power, Oh yes, where does it land? Again, we talked about the mid to high A tier. So with the parameters we talked about earlier, 800 Paragon, less than 100 legendary gem levels, and less than 10k main stat, I would say as a new player, make sure you use cheat death. I would say you would have no problem doing a 107 with the build. Like, it should be easy for you. Like, it's also in that same Leapquake kind of tier where you're stomping anything up to like a 109 roughly. I say 107 because, a lot of people aren't as experienced, right? If you are experienced with those same low Paragon levels, you could probably do a 115. You can see how much we slapped up the 110. I could imagine somebody with no Augs pushing into the mid teens, right? The 114 territory. For a mastery tier, like with, a lot of Paragon, high augments, you put a lot of time and effort and care, TLC into your character. I could easily see the build around that 140 solo range, right? Skating in that mid to high A tier, probability, right? Mostly like in the high 135s, like 135 plus. Really good build. For group play, it actually is a pretty good single target. It does drop off in the 140s like we talked about, but it's a pretty good RGK if you need to fit somebody in and you don't have no Frenzy Barb, you don't have, AOV Satyr or anything like that. All right, my favorite part of the video is actually the rotation, right? Because this is like how you actually play the build. And it's kind of an interesting one like we talked about, but once you get your muscle memory down packed, you'll be okay. As soon as you enter the Rift, you're going to keep up your 2 buffs like always. You're going to cast your 2 Hydras because that is tied to your survivability. Having the Hydras out is what keeps you alive. From there, I like to just throw out 5 Arcane Dynamos, Shock Pulses, because it's going to give me 5 Dynamo stacks. We're using Arcane Dynamo, sorry. When you cast a signature spell, you gain a flash of insight. After 5 flashes, your next signature spell does additional damage, right? And that also stacks with the new version of the belt that we talked about in the intro, right? So keep up your Hydras, cast 5 stacks, and then we're gonna go. What do we have here? We have enemies right here. What we're gonna do, since we have the 5 stack, cast Hydra. It's gonna consume the stacks. I like to cast Blizzard after Hydra, and then I hold this down till we get 5 stacks, cast Hydra again. These are gonna be powered up Hydras. Cast again, Hydra. You don't want to cast Blizzard before Hydra because then it's just gonna, all your Arcane Dynamo is gonna get consumed and go to Blizzard. Blizzard is not how you do your damage. You're just using Blizzard to work with your offhand, right? So really quick, I'm entering the Rift, I'm rebuffing, I'm casting my 5 stacks here. I'm looking for an elite. Oh, look, there's Kadala. Have a Hydra, have a Blizzard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have a Hydra, have a Blizzard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And that's pretty much how I repeat. You don't have to keep recasting the Hydras, you can just let it sit and just keep recasting Blizzard. They do last a long time when they're up, but a lot of times I'm repositioning. Obviously, I'm jumping in Oculus Rings. I am running Calamity with the build. You can use Safe Passage if you like for more survivability. I just like when I'm moving around to keep them stunned and CC'd, and there is crowd control coming from your Hydras at all times as well, so that's basically how I like to play. Sometimes early season, the servers get bombarded with traffic. So here is your build screenshot for Typhon Hydra. In case the servers are down, here's the build right here. Here's what the build looks like, right? You don't even have to worry about focus and restraint because it takes care of itself. You're using generators and spenders, and it's just great because you don't even have to think about it. You just get that fat DPS. Here's your legendary gems that I use. I would use Stricken past like maybe 120 or so, feel it out, and then swap out Zays for Stricken depending. But I love pushing with these 3 if I can help it. Here's the cube slot, and in the 4th slot I have Ring of Royal Grandeur. So we're able to make this work big time because we have the 4th cube slot this season. So you can see that we have to have them affected by Blizzard. That kind of makes the speed build not as good. You can play it without Winter's Flurry and it still works, but there's just better options out there. I have a video out on my channel with Laud and Frozen Orb, and Laud Melee Frozen Orb, like Melee DMO old school, but it's Melee Legacy of Nightmares. So definitely check it out on the channel. That is what I would play. That is a badass build. In conclusion, man, this is another one of those slept on builds, like there's a lot of juicy content, like in terms of build power and like off meta things that are really close, skating the lines of meta. And this is one of those builds, Hydra, like Necromancer, were kind of a meme when they came out a little bit. And Necromancer totally rectified the image because they got these badass bracers. They got the cube slot that really boosts their power. And Hydra got a lot more power this season in a way. So it's kind of shedding that old adage that, like, you know, Hydra's not the best or whatever. And it's technically not up there with the top of the Kings in S tier, or, you know, and it's barely in the A+ tier, I would say. But it's still really strong, and I think it hits the themes really well. And I think the devs did a good job making it not a channeling build and being interesting. Again, I would have done something different than, you know, using Blizzard in the build, but it works. And I think if you play it, you'll understand it does feel better than it looks or it looks on paper, right? It's like sometimes riding a bike gives you a better understanding than just reading about riding a bike. And this is that situation where it's a little bit more interesting than you would think. If you want to support further, man, you can go on Twitch, throw me a sub, throw me a follow, come say hi. You can sub here on YouTube. You can, you know, whatever you do, all my social media, everything is in the description of the video. I'm going to be playing Diablo all weekend long. I can't wait to spend time with all you brothers and sisters. I'll be playing on launch night. I decided on playing hardcore. I said I would play softcore, but man, it calls me. I'm a hardcore player. It calls me back every single time. I'm probably going to start Necro with this slight chance of something else, you know, because it is hardcore, and do Shadow Clone leveling solo. So it's going to be a wild ride. So that's all for me today. This is Bloodshed, and I'm out of here.